Hello and good day. Welcome to our video channel, God's Promises. And today's video will be Psalm 109. Let's get started now. Psalm 109 is a prayer for deliverance from enemies, attributed to King David. The psalm is divided into three parts: a plea for God's help, a curse against the psalmist's enemies, and a final plea for deliverance. The psalmist begins by calling on God to save him from his enemies who have spoken against him with malicious tongues, lying lips, and hateful words. He describes the harm his enemies have done to him, including their false accusations and curses. In the second part of the psalm, the psalmist turns to curses against his enemies, calling for God to bring judgment upon them. He prays that their days be few, their children fatherless, their wives widows, and that their possessions be taken away. The psalmist also asks God to remember the sins of his enemies and their fathers, and to deal with them accordingly. The third part of the psalm is a plea for God's deliverance. The psalmist acknowledges his own weakness and need for God's help. He asks that God would come to his aid and save him from his enemies, for the sake of his steadfast love and faithfulness. The psalmist also expresses his desire to praise God and give thanks to him publicly for all that he has done. The teaching application of Psalm 109 is primarily about how we should respond to our enemies. The psalmist's initial reaction is to turn to God for help and deliverance, which is a good model for us to follow. When we are faced with opposition or persecution, our first response should be to seek God's help and guidance, and to trust in His provision. However, the psalmist's curses against his enemies can be difficult for some readers to reconcile with Jesus' teaching to love our enemies and pray for those who persecute us. It's important to remember that this psalm was written in a different context, and that the psalmist is expressing his own anger and frustration at his enemies. As followers of Jesus, we are called to love our enemies and pray for those who persecute us, even when it's difficult. Ultimately, the teaching application of Psalm 109 is about trusting in God's faithfulness and seeking His help in times of trouble. We can be confident that God hears our prayers and will come to our aid, even when we feel overwhelmed by our enemies. Like the psalmist, we can praise God for His steadfast love and faithfulness, even in the midst of our struggles. Thank you for visiting us today. Please share with us your favorite Bible verse below in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does help our channel grow. Looking forward to see you back here for our next video. Always take good care.